And I actually start on time, so the airline did that to me. So y'all ready? Okay, so what do you want to talk about this morning? Coffee talk. Well, you know, coffee talk is talking a little bit on the fringe of stuff, kind of destroying the paranormal and destroying the way the devil's working and exposing him. And so, boy, YouTube doesn't like these shows at all. And the government, takes stuff out literally live. So I have to repeat stuff a couple times because they take it out live. It's not there anymore. It's just amazing. So we have hard copies of everything, but the bottom line is that like last night we had, 17 minutes after we posted the video, it already had 12,000 people watched it. And then, so these are in the hundreds of thousands watch these videos. We have 500,000 views from 6 months ago on these subjects. So the bottom line is I felt like God wanted me to do these kind of conversations because there's a lot of people that are really traumatized by things that are happening. So we all know that a lot of these things are the demonic, but it's kind of tricky because some of these things aren't as well defined as you would like. So there's a lot of times when things happen, we're not sure what happened. And this is the way Satan works. He tries to obscure things to make it look like it could have been science, it could have been the military, it could be just creatures left over from the previous era, like before the flood, things like that. There's a lot of things, if we be honest. There's a lot of things that are happening that we just can't explain. Kind of like out of the corner of your eye, so to speak. You see things, things happen. But the enemy will accommodate culture as things go forward. So we have to have these conversations as well. So this is more of a relaxed atmosphere. We have this on Saturday mornings for a couple hours. And we talk about things, and I give you the scientific data and some of the evidence. Unfortunately, we didn't bring our truck because we're going right to Hawaii, and our truck isn't waterproof, so we didn't even bring it across the United States for this. We just had things shipped, and of course, I don't have my displays, so I could give you visuals, but we'll plan on doing that in the future. So you're going to have to just listen and write some notes, and I'll give you all the names, I'll give you links, I'll give you books, I'll give you a whole bunch of things that you can do the studies on yourself. So the whole idea here is that we need to start to be able to research and think for ourselves and not just take everything that's being told to us. That's my point for Coffee Talk. The other thing is that you have to also understand that a lot of things about science are purposely not being told. They don't want you to be completely understanding things like gravity because it's classified. And because there are other dimensions and other realms, which there are, and we can see that in the Bible, if you notice that this world system is mostly focused on the tension on your body and on your mind. There's not a lot of education about your spirit. Okay, so if you think about it, it's the same way with the other dimensions. Everything is kind of focused on the disease of the week or the next war, the banking system and the economy. And if there isn't something happening, something curiously starts to happen. It's like they can't go more than a week without something drawing your attention away. But there's very, very little conversations about the spirit part of you and even in the world. So if you start to access the other realms through the spirit, then you have an advantage which could undermine if something's supposed to be cloaked. So Satan likes to work behind the scenes because if he's exposed, he doesn't have anything else really. He doesn't have any power on his own. Everything that he does is manipulating what God has already done or given. Do you understand that? He doesn't create. So he has to take what is and somehow make it a hybrid or, take that and use it to weaponize it, right? So he weaponizes people against people. He can't just do something on his own. Does everybody understand that? Is that he is kind of locked out of the physical realm, right? So he has to use something from this particular dimension. But if you start to look at science, and if you are allowed to understand that, which you have to study, then you'll see that there are way more than 3 dimensions and 4 dimensions. And then you'll find out a big surprise that you have space, you talk about distance or space, and then you have time. But see, really the truth is it's space-time. It's one word. Because it's relative. It doesn't matter the distance you travel. It's because the time that it takes to get there is more important if you are limited by a certain age that you can live. So does it really matter how far you can go, or does it matter how fast you can get there? Because a trip could take, at the speed of light to the nearest star is like 45 years at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles a second. So you have to get to that speed. You have to maintain that speed for 45 years. Okay, so right away you're thinking, well, why would anybody want to go 45 years to come here at the speed of light anyway? See, it's ludicrous to say that something is visiting us from another star system, because who would want to travel 45 years to land and say, take me to your leader, So the bottom line is that with me and all the people who have talked to me, some shouldn't have, some did, some got in trouble, but the bottom line is this, that is there really time in the Spirit? And the answer is no. You see, the earth used to be that way. Adam and Eve didn't age. They didn't get sick. They didn't have to work. They didn't even have to vote. Okay, so they had complete freedom because the laws that were in operation there had to do with the limitless realm, that the limitations were taken off in that day. So it didn't matter how long they lived because you couldn't die. So there was no points of reference of deterioration. So, it didn't matter how old you were, right? Because you just kept living and you didn't get sick. And you didn't have to work, so you weren't saving for retirement. There were no reference points. Do you understand? See, we got to start framing our mind that way. This keeps us out. The reason the church seems behind, and that you encounter Christians that just seem to be really getting and grasping the truth of the gospel and the Bible, is because our minds are framed a certain way, and it's based on limitations. You can't wait for retirement. And then when you get there, you don't have enough money to retire. It's a system that's set up for failure. But you're limited, right? So you work. Hi-ho, off to work we go, in other words, the way we start to look at God is based on what we are encountering every day. But if we're not encountering the supernatural or the limitless realm of God, where we live forever, and down here, we're just down here to serve and glorify Him, and that Jesus gets all the glory in our life. If you're a servant, then it kind of takes the pressure off of performance. But if not, if you look at it, you have to keep your job, you have to show up, you have to save, and you have to manage your money. And, the The government's staring at your retirement more than you are. And they want it more than you do. Now, we have to be honest with that this is all kind of staged. They know how long you're going to live. They know what you're going to produce in your life. And they have already managed all that. And then they just print money. Right? So we're really working for them. That's called slavery. Okay, now you can see now that if you study science and you start to see the classified things that are hidden, that all the technology that we have now was known 30 years ago. And that the technology that's operating now behind the scenes is 30 to 50 years ahead. And some of this stuff will never be released. Okay, so when you think about the other realms, you understand that through Jesus Christ, we have access to the spiritual realm. However, we can access the realms through witchcraft. We know that. But God forbids it. Jesus talks about people that come in through other ways. Right? We have to go through the door, which is Him. But it's clear that witchcraft and all these things, you do have access to the spirit realms. And those of you who were in it before in Christ, you understand that. Because I encountered that kind of thing. But when I became a Christian, I go through Jesus now, and I go through the Word of God. So we're all spiritual beings in a sense. We all have a spirit. We're born that way, with a spirit, with a soul, and with a body. So the spirit, soul, and body comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and verse 23 and 24 talks about the fact that Paul prayed for our spirit, our soul, and our body. So there's 3 different words there. If you look them up, they mean 3 different things. So even the spirit and the soul, which we intermix a lot, is not really, you can't do that. The spirit part of you is the part that every human being has, the real them, which lives forever. Whether you go to hell or whether you go to heaven, if you're Catholic, you go to purgatory, but that's not true. But I don't want to be on a stuck elevator in between. But if you have a spirit, which you do as a human being, then that's the eternal you, that's the real you. Now, when you leave this earth and you go and stand before the Lord, you're present with the Lord because you lay aside, Paul says, your body. So it's your earth suit. So when you go diving, you put your diving suit on. When I have certain things I have to wear if I'm flying certain types of aircraft. I have to have oxygen on for military aircraft. I don't have to have oxygen on for corporate jets and things like that, but it's there if I need it in case of emergency. But there are certain systems that you have to, in order to be in hostile environments, you have to have that. Well, to be on the earth, you have to have an earth suit. You have to have your body. So we see that the Word of God provides that word for body, which is your flesh, and that you have a spirit. But the soul part of you is very interesting because that word is where we get the word psychology. The psychological realm, your will, the way that you think, your mindset. So it's your mind, your will, and your emotions. Okay, so you can feel really sad right now, and you can go get a double espresso. It's very interesting because you can be sad and all of a sudden you're happy, but you don't know why, and you're chattering, you're flying around like a little hummingbird all of a sudden. And you're like asking people, help me shut up, because I can't stop chattering. Well, what happened? Well, see, something happened through the body that affects your soul. So something can happen in your spirit and it can come out into your soul. And you can start laughing, but the origin of joy is a supernatural, spiritual characteristic of God. It's a fruit of the Spirit. So you can have happiness, which may be that your car didn't break down today for the first time, or that you got a raise at work, or the Port Authority went back to work, and you're happy that you're going to get your Amazon deliveries, So These things are based on factual things that happen and input and maybe the fact that something hasn't broken through for you and you get discouraged. Okay, so if you tap into the spirit realm, you're going to grab something from the other realm that's eternal, and you could start laughing at the devil, and he's like getting freaked out, like, why are you laughing? I just tried to kill you. And you start laughing. Well, that's joy. That's a spiritual thing. That's from the other realm. So that's what I want to talk about this morning, is that there are other laws working, but you're dealing with three parts of you. And I don't think that people are understanding. They're not given the tools through the church. The teaching should be there because the early church understood this. And look at what we have these days. So we're going to get into the paranormal and talk about that, but we're going to label it correctly. And, we're not going to give it any credence. But just so you know, the government has all this technology that can access these different things. And there are different entities that are portraying themselves as wanting to help. Of course, the government's all for that, if it's highly technical. Oh, I got your choking point. A lot of you just went... Well, trust me, we're just on the hors d'oeuvres right now. Okay, so here, look at this. This is levitating. Now, not only is it completely weightless, but it's also transferring electricity wirelessly to the light bulb. Now, what's interesting is this thing will keep rotating at the direction that the Earth is rotating. If I stop it, it'll start going and it'll start rotating the same way. Okay, so you don't believe in UFOs, but I bought this on Amazon. So you don't believe in UFOs, but there's a UFO doing the same thing. That sucker is not touching that. The thing is levitating and it's rotating. I can get that on Amazon too. But you don't believe in UFOs, but you can buy these things on Amazon. So if we have this on Amazon, you can click and have it in an hour here in Seattle. Same day, same hour. Then what do you think the government has? Okay, so is this really supernatural? Because this used to be like a magic trick, and you're thinking like, whoa, how do you get that power? But these are laws of physics. Okay, so if you don't know this and you don't understand this, then it appears to be something out of the ordinary, but what if it's just smoke and mirrors? What if it's just science? Which it is. Okay, the only thing is if I would up this, which I don't have that material, but if I had element 115 on the periodical charts, which my buddy, I'd never met this guy, I know him through another friend, but he worked on these things right here, and they had element 115, which wasn't on the charts till just a couple of years ago, but he talked about it many years ago in 1988. And I knew about element 115, but it didn't appear on the charts till just a couple of years ago on the periodical chart. But if you look at the electrons that are on that substance, we're used to 8 or 10 electrons. This puppy has 32. Okay, if you introduce that into this realm, that substance isn't from this particular Earth at this time. It might have been previously, before the magnetic field started degrading at the fall. But what I'm saying is that we only see 1/6 of light, and that's the rainbow colors. But there's 5/6 that we don't see that can be seen through sensors. So that's why these days, all the whistleblowers, all the pilots that are before Congress, they had new equipment on their F-18s, and they could see these things and they could track them, whereas before they were still there, but they didn't see them. Because our eyes don't see those things, and the radar we had didn't pick them up. And this happens all the time. Stuff flies by, and I don't have it on my radar, but it's there. It just happened a couple days ago. Okay, so if I had an element 115 doing this, you wouldn't be able to see this if I spooled it up past a certain point. So the isotopes, when you excite, the power that is produced from this material, it causes light to bend back into itself. So it never comes to your eye. It's still there. But see, light coming to your eye produces the image. So that's why at night, when it starts to get dark, it goes from the rods to the cones. The cones and the rods pick up the different spectrums, but at night, you see in black and white. And at a certain point, even the infrared cameras will go to black and white because there's not enough light to image it in color. Does everybody understand it? Your eye is like that. Your eyes pick up light. So if light doesn't come to your eye, if I was spooled up past a certain point, if I had this substance on me, you wouldn't be able to see me, but you could hear me. I was still here, but the light is not allowed to come to your eyes. It bends back in because light has substance to it. There's photons that are manipulated by magnetic field. Is this too much? Because this is about as far as I can go normally because you guys just need to study. Okay, so Jesus could walk through walls. After he ate, he could appear and disappear. When people went to grab him and it wasn't his time, he would just walk through the crowd. How did you think he did that? Slapping people? No. He didn't have a denizen say, hey, stay back. No. He was the realms. He could operate in the different realms, right? People were translated. There was no time or space limitations because they stepped over into the spirit realm. We call it the spirit realm, but there are 7 different realms. There's the sevenfold or the 7 dimensions of the spirit. We don't have 7 spirits. I only need one Holy Spirit. So it's a sevenfold. It's the 7 dimensions of the Holy Spirit. We've fallen. Just to show you, Solomon, you think he was a good boy, but he had 900 wives. Do you know how many purses that is? And how many pairs of shoes that is? Now think about this. What does it say in the law? It says 1 wife. How many did David have? Well, he had half that. That's still too many. Okay, so he disobeyed God. It was never meant to be that way, but God let it happen. Okay, so Solomon, think about this. Did you ever notice how many steps were to his throne that are written in the Old Testament? He had 6 steps to his throne, not 7. Well, 6 is the number of man. Do you know what his wages were according to Scripture? 666 talents of gold a year. Why 666? He's infiltrated. Come on now. This is where you start feeling uncomfortable and you sip your coffee. What happened? He was not supposed to marry all those wives, and those wives were also not from his own family line. He was infiltrated by false gods. What about Samson? He was told not to intermarry, to stay with his own people. What did he do? So he didn't just lose his hair. He broke his covenant. That was part of his oath. The Nazirite vow was that his hair had to stay long. It was the vow that had lost his power. He broke the vow. How did he break the vow? Delilah. Who was Delilah? She wasn't an Israelite. Okay, so today, what we're encountering as the people of God is that we all come from different backgrounds, from different races, everything. We all have the same that background that's different. So some of us have encountered witchcraft and encountered all these different things. We all come into Christ, but we all come from different places. And Jesus, literally, through what he did through the Apostle Paul, was the Gentiles were accepted in. They were grafted in. And we were favored before. As far as honoring the Gentiles now, the church is being honored by God, whereas the Jews are supposed to be being provoked to jealousy, it says, which isn't happening because they own everything. They own all the patents, right? All right, so the whole idea is that going through the gate, going through Jesus Christ into the fold gives you everything, gives you access to eternity now. So even though the last enemy to die is to be overcome is death, physical death, but spiritual death has been overcome through Jesus Christ. So spiritual death has been taken care of. And we also have healing. If you look at all the points of the gospel, going and preaching the gospel, healing the sick, we have healing, raising the dead. We can supersede the laws of death at certain points. But Paul says that the last enemy to be put underfoot is physical death, right? But it says jubilee, which is debt cancellation. Every 50 years, your debts were canceled. Okay, so it has the idea of being the spiritual thing that your debts are canceled spiritually, but it also, you are the sons of Abraham, which the blessings of Abraham, which Abraham got was that he was the greatest man on the earth as far as wealth, and so was Solomon. Okay, so we see the blessings also in the financial realm, but we have deliverance as well. So we have that promise through the gospel of deliverance from demonic entities, which is very interesting when you look at some people that I'm going to mention now. If you buy their books, a guy from Johns Hopkins University, John Mack, he's not a believer, but he noticed a trend with these phenomena of these entities and these craft and these abductions and things. So he did a study, and he found that out of the 500, and then he went on to 1,000. He interviewed these people. They all said that these entities were saying the same thing, but these people don't talk to each other, and they had the same things. They saw the same creatures. They were told the same things. And he said, listen, he's a PhD, so he has to just take data. He doesn't have an opinion. He's saying, listen, there's something here. And so he now is at Stanford. And also a lot of the staff at Stanford are now starting to, they're not Christian either, but they're saying, listen, the government's hiding stuff from us. And so another one is Gary Nolan that you need to listen to his interviews. He's, I think, the lead immunologist in the world, but he is starting to investigate a lot of this stuff too as well, because he has all the machines to do the testing on things. So he has some very intriguing things to say as well. These people are saying, listen, based on the fact that I have substance that came off of a craft that is not from this solar system. And we need to find out, with this substance, you can't make this substance. The earth won't support it. It wouldn't be stable down here, but it's stable. So it's not deteriorating at all. It doesn't have a half-life. But where did it come from, and how did we get this kind of material? Okay, so you think about angels that have a sword that can kill 185,000 Assyrians in one night. And those soldiers that died would testify that that was a real sword, but it was an angel sword that you can't see. Okay, so you have these kind of things where angels appear, they eat with you, and then they disappear. Well, where did the food go? We've had them in the Bible where they cook for the people. They actually cook the bread, and then they feed it, and then they disappear. Okay, so how does that happen? So this isn't, my point is that it isn't very far off when you think about it, that maybe the realms were higher and heightened before the flood and before the fall, and that we're just suffering in that fall. We don't see everything now with our eyes like we used to. We sense things in our spirit. So our spirit still senses things and knows things, but we don't have what you would call data or evidence available to us. But the government does have these tools to do that. And so, on infrared cameras, I pick up things that are from the other realm, and I have pictures of them. But they are invisible to the eye because, we can walk into this room, we could see it on the camera. I walk right up to it, and it's afraid of me because I start praying in the spirit or speaking in tongues, and they start scattering. But they had gathered in certain rooms, and the cameras pick them up. Is this too much? Okay, so the company that made those cameras, do you think that the government has seen stuff from those cameras as well? Right? Okay, so that's just what's public. This is Amazon. So trust me, it might seem like a big step to manufacture something that you can get into and ride in, but it's really just the science is here, is what my point. Okay, so it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not like if these things exist, they do exist. And you've heard the testimony of these men. And so I want to go through kind of those testimonies of the questions of the men who came forward, asked to be protected. Now, just so you know, a lot of the information I've known for 30 years, I was not allowed to talk about it. The reason why I wasn't is because I should know it, and I wasn't read in. But somebody else was, and they shouldn't have said anything. Okay, so to protect, I didn't talk. My wife knew about it. The reason I'm saying this is because now in Congress, these men are saying the same things I knew for 30 years. And so now it's out. And the things that they're saying, the congressmen are asking them, so you have these craft? And they said, yes. Were there pilots inside? Yes. Were they human? No. Okay? You can go and watch this congressional, and that guy, David Grush, was ahead of that, was part of he really is legitimately that. His boss was Lou Elizondo, which is another guy you got to write down, because he whistle blew. Okay, so the technology is now ours. Now, how we got it is really weird, but we have it, okay? Now, if I start talking about that we have it, I have to stop right there because it is completely classified and you will never know about it. You will see it, but you will never know about it, and they want you to think that they are aliens. But if you look closely, some of these things have little American flags on them because they're 30 to 50 years ahead of what you know. So even people that flew aircraft that have now been declassified that you know about, they told me, they said, we saw stuff in hangars that looked like that. And this is back in the 60s. Okay, so we have this stuff. How we got it is the mystery, and that's the rabbit hole, which is the mystery of the rabbit hole is my title this morning, is because if you start talking about UFOs, then that's unidentified. If you notice, they changed it to UAPs. Okay, the reason they did that, because that is our technology now. So when you do searches on that, they just want you to get away from your Freedom of Information Act searches because it has now become our technology. But what about the end time scenario? And what about the demonic? What about the name of Jesus? What about trampling on serpents and scorpions? You see, you cannot allow a revelation of science and technology to get us away from using our authority and knowing that there is this thing happening in the end times where things will become visible that were hidden. We cannot allow the greatest deception has ever happened to deceive even the elect, if that were possible, because that's what's exactly happening. And I until my last breath, I will talk about this because I am trying to eliminate the elect from being deceived if that was possible. The bottom line is just because you have physical evidence doesn't mean that it's not demonic. You cannot allow them to do this to you. They have kept you out of the understanding of gravity. You cannot access these things because it's classified. So I'm not talking about classified projects anymore. I'm talking about the things that we can talk about. And that is that if angels can appear to you and they can do supernatural things, then you know that the demonic can appear to you as well. And these things can appear as real people. And angels can appear as real people. That has happened to me. It has probably happened to you and you don't know it. And some of you, maybe you have had it. I have help all the time. But these individuals, they practically have price tags on their clothes still. They've never been worn before. They have no wallet. They have nothing. They get on the airplane. They have nothing. Not on my airplane. I have cherubs now. I have employees that are cherubs, But at the airline, we would have people get on. They had no luggage, which is impossible, no wallet. They don't read the magazine. They don't order a drink. They just sit there and smile at you the whole flight. It looks like they just pulled the tags off of their clothes from buying them. They're immaculate. Sometimes they're way more taller than they should be. And they were purposely sitting there to watch me. I was getting my audit on how I was treating people. And then when they walk off, multiple times, and with other flight attendants seeing it, they say something to me that is not something that somebody would say. It was a word from God, and they walk out into the jetway and disappear into thin air. It's happened multiple times. Some of these beings are almost 7 foot tall. They have a mullet haircut, which is out. And they didn't get on the airplane, but they got off the airplane. Because, I'd remember a mullet haircut, 7 feet tall, blonde haired. Right? So these things happen to us. They appear to be human. They don't have wings. They're here to help us, to assist us in our ministry. Right? They minister for us who are to inherit salvation. They're among us. There's at least probably one here, at least one in the crowd right now. But then there are also witches in the crowd as well. And that's why I leave spaces open for the witches, and I always invite them to sit up here because they sit back there and cast spells and it doesn't work, so I ask them to come up here and get closer, maybe it'll work. Because it's not going to work. So these are for good witches, bad witches, and sandwiches, any kind of witch. So if you're going to operate in this physical realm in the days to come, you're also going to have to operate in the other realms and learn about them. And that is the psychological realm is where the warfare really is. See, so your physical body can respond to any kind of medication or any kind of substance you can put in your body. You can take certain vitamins and your body needs them. And as soon as you take them, they're in your bloodstream within 10 minutes. I just did it. I just took it before I got down here. And I already feel it working. And I didn't need a vaccination or a pharmaceutical grade anything. I just click on Amazon. Okay, so I can take something that I feel like my body needs, and I do research just like you do, and then my body needs that. But it does affect your body, and it does affect your emotions and your soul, which then allows your spirit to operate in a greater manner. See, if you're in pain, or if you're staring at your bills, or if you're getting crazy calls from your crazy relatives, these things affect you, and I call it being torqued. You get torqued, either emotionally, physically, mentally, so that you don't yield to your spirit and the Holy Spirit that's in your spirit, because it's spirit to spirit, right? Okay, so if an object can be heightened to where it can supersede the laws of this earth and go into another dimension, that is not far-fetched, and that's practical science. but it's being kept because it's classified. And I'm not going to touch those things except for what I can buy on Amazon. But if Amazon has these, what do you think the government has in a hangar right now at Boeing? At the Phantom Works? Of course they have this stuff. Okay, the only thing is that if there is a deception coming where it appears that these entities have now offered their help, they've come from afar, and they're our gods, small gods, G, and they offer to help us, and yet the whole idea is that they are in another dimension that have been here since the flood. And now they have embodied themselves through biologics, like these whistleblowers talk about, and also the fact that the technology can heighten it to where they can go and come in and out, and they can travel very fast and maneuvers that we couldn't survive. But they can do that inside because the environment inside the craft, it's not a spacecraft. It's not from another planet. It's from another dimension. But they've been here for a long time. And they did this at the time before the flood. And so a lot of the things you see, we can't build today, but they could build them because of this very thing I'm telling you. And that's not just, it's just not the polarity. Like this is based off a polarity right here. Playing polarity against each other, which makes it weightless. There's also frequency. There's all kinds of other ways I just don't want to get into. I don't want to get into a lot of conversation because they already throttled me back on YouTube really bad. So I just have to stay alive, and I want to be able to come, and I want to be able to do this. They could just, I'm thankful for YouTube and my face and Facebook, I'm thankful that we can do this, but there is a certain point where it's not going to help you past a certain point. So, but I'm telling you, look at these things on your own and realize that the demonic has changed culturally. Okay, so how I caught this, if you don't mind me continuing, if not, we can do something else. Okay, so the bottom line was, it has to do with Germany and Austria and the Nazis. It has to do with that. So you need to get Project Paperclip by Annie Jacobsen. She is a Pulitzer Prize winner for that book. Okay, she's not completely in other subjects. I know that all these people that I'm referencing, just so you know, they can be counterintelligence officers as well. A lot of these people are CIA that say they've left the CIA, but I want to tell you something. You never leave the CIA. So they're always going to follow you. They're always watching you. And you will disappear if you say the wrong thing. You'll go to jail. So if you're not read in, if you're not told that you can release these certain things, you have to put in paperwork. And there are certain things that people are not given permission to talk about. But they give you certain information to kind of like let you settle back in. Just enough to maybe get you to back off. Okay? But the bottom line is that if stuff starts happening in these end times, which it happened before World War II, the end of World War II, they noticed some technology that was happening in World War II that was beyond what we had. So the pilots and the army, they started saying, listen, there's stuff going on, and the Nazis have other things. So the first jet aircraft flew by our propeller aircraft, and it double and triple the speed. And they said, what is this? And it was the Me-262, which was a jet-powered fighter jet. We didn't have anything jet. And it flew by the P-51s, which is the hottest thing of the day. And the P-38s, it flew by them, and like they were standing still. They had Foo Fighters, which were these orbs, these glowing balls. Well, anyway, the bottom line is this, going quickly so that we can go on, is that when they opened up the side of these mountains with all these science, all these labs, they had a lot of this machinery there. And I saw photos that get taken down. I saw film that's been taken down. And the craft that were in there that I saw at the end of World War II ended up in a drawing, in a picture, right by Mount Rainier, where there was a fleet of them flying. They called them flying discs. The first time that was referenced as flying saucers. These were craft that I saw in a photo in Germany in those labs. And so when that was drawn, that craft was not even a disc. It was like a moon-shaped half. And I saw that craft when the Army came in and opened up those laboratories. So 2 years later at Mount Rainier, Kenneth Arnold had that experience when he was looking for a downed plane on Mount Rainier, flying around it. And he drew that picture. I said, I've seen that before. That's not a flying saucer. That was that flying wing that I saw in those laboratories. Okay, so in Project Paperclip, the reason you have to read that book is that they took 1,500 of those scientists. They were all SS. They all skipped the Nuremberg trials and came to New Mexico, Nevada, and became the heads of our technology there in the 40s, in the mid-40s and late 40s. So von Braun, all these guys, there's 1,500 of them. If you look at their names, which I have, and this book will help you, they became the head of the CIA, the head of NASA. These are killers. But they were highly sophisticated scientists that understood technology that had to do with gravity. Okay, stuff happened in Antarctica. There's stuff there that was frozen over that's melting now. So that's the whole idea about you not wanting, they don't want you to fly over there because stuff is starting to be exposed. Because the ice caps are melting. Which God, I believe, he judged all that and froze it. That there was, I have my own theory about what happened to the earth as far as an instant freeze. And there's the 23.5 degrees that the earth is tilted now. That used to not be that way. That was because of a strike, but I believe by a meteor that knocked it off and shifted the poles and caused an instant freeze, which locked a lot of this stuff in. Because the stuff that they're finding, these animals froze instantly. And how does the existing dirt and substance around the dinosaurs end up in the dinosaurs like that? It wasn't millions of years. This exchanged, the substance from outside went into them and became rock. The trees became rock. How did that happen? Well, if you understand science at a higher level, you can understand how that can happen. My dad used to go up in the Navy, and he used to boil water, and then they would depressurize the cabin. It would instantly freeze, and the boiling water bubbles would freeze like that. Wow. Because of a vacuum, which is what happened. So in space, you can understand there's none of the laws that we have on this earth. So if you can get yourself going out of the earth at a certain speed, you continue to go in that. That's just Newton. That's Newton's law. You'll just keep going until you add another force that's opposing to slow you down. Okay, this is all known to you, but what about the stuff you don't know? So Project Paperclip, it's interesting because if you look at the early UFO sightings in the 1800s and 1900s, they were shaped like zeppelins, like dirigibles, which was the object of the day. So they were a lot like cigar-shaped. And I noticed that the shape started to change as culture changed and as science changed. And then I thought, you know what? The demons are playing with where the culture is at the time. Something to put in your pipe and smoke, you know. I don't recommend you smoking a pipe, but I mean, put that in your pipe. No, think about it. See, we don't ask these questions. And so we don't want to be bothered. But what happens if in the end time scenario, what if it doesn't work out according to what you think is going to happen? What if we have to stay a little longer than we would like to? And what if the white horse doesn't come exactly when we need it to come? Like would have been last election would have been fine with me. But if we find ourselves here, then God considers us part of a solution, or he wouldn't have us here, right? He has more confidence in us because it says he works out everything. If God is for us, who can be against us? Do you remember that those verses at the end of chapter 8 are still in book of Romans? And that there are certain emergencies in an airplane, I am not allowed to process it. I look and I see if something comes up, I automatically go to my checklist. I automatically go to that page and I start down it, and I've memorized a lot of the red items because you have to. And I just start doing the checklist. I don't try to figure out if this is true or not true. I verify it. So there are ways to verify something, especially you can see in the systems will show you that, yes, maybe one of those is an anomaly. But if you have something, and all the systems will talk to each other, and they wait, every second is precious. So you automatically start to do your procedures. You don't think about it. And so it's hard at first. So over the training period of these things, you're trained to stay out of, you're not allowing time to pass for you to consider if this is all these people out. And when you look at the origin, it's all demonic. When you look at exactly what, like, I got NASA patches on me. I've been there. I've planes. I've trained. But that was for, I want to talk to them. I just wanted to fly their airplanes that you can't fly anywhere else and get some training through. Just for the kids on my for the kids, because I just fly each airplane that I can find, that I can get, and the documentary on it for the kids. Okay, but as far as how these, when they start falling out of the sky, see that the